Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Failure Effect. My name is Wayua Muli. I will be your host this week. And today we have a very, very special guest, the super extra phenomenal Amakovi Wala. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Wayua. It's a
Okay,
pleasure to be here.
it's lovely to have you here.
Asante.
Now, what Amakovi doesn't know is that she is the actual inspiration for this entire Failure Effect show. And the reason why she's the inspiration for the show is because once upon a time, when I was wandering those FB streets, as you do when you're looking for entertainment, I came across a post and it was by her. She's talking about shutting down a business that she had started. And she talked about her feeling like a failure because her business had shut down. We'll get to that very soon. And there was a whole list of comments, people talking about how their businesses had fallen apart and the lessons that they learned. And I said to myself, I think this is a conversation that people need to have. And so here we are. This is how the channel started. This is why I am so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we all know you're an entrepreneur, right? What businesses do you run?
I have three businesses. At least the ones that are registered by that are paying taxes.
Okay.
So the first one. So I think I've built my businesses around my passion and also my lifestyle. So the oldest one is called Nyarai Home Care Services, which is a domestic worker bureau that does placement of domestic workers from nannies, drivers, name it, anyone who works in the household setup except security team. So that's been running 6 years now. Started off inside my house and now it's branched off. It has an office of its own and 2 employees. So
Wow.
I'm happy about that.
Uh-huh.
And then the second one is Wanderlust Diaries, which is a travel platform that also started from my passion from traveling. And the platform is on Facebook mostly, but we are looking at moving a lot of the content and curating a lot of the content onto the website. So Wanderlust Diaries has a subsidiary company that was called Coven Cottage, which was an Airbnb that I had set up in my neighborhood. And that's coming to the topic of this conversation. And then I have the third one, which I am a co-director with someone else, and that's Beyond the Stethoscope. Being a medical doctor, I felt there was a gap in terms of our colleagues and ourselves in how we package ourselves in careers that are outside the clinical space. And so Beyond the Stethoscope is there to just give guidance and, options that, doctors, pharmacists, dentists can look into beyond seeing patients. So those are the three businesses. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's go towards Beyond the Stethoscope because you're a doctor by training.
Yes, I
right?
am. Yeah.
So how did you end up in the medical field and then take this sharp turn into entrepreneurship? But let's start with the medical field first.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2001 with 2002 with a bachelor's degree in medicine and surgery. I did my mandatory internship and then got posted to one of those days there were districts. So one of these far-flung districts. And while I was there, I got sick and I could not afford the services that I was offering. Coincidentally, it was a condition that I was actually attending to another patient. And so I had to get, treated for that. And during my break, I felt, it cannot be that I'm offering a service that I can't afford. And that's because of just the nature of the circumstances those days. We were really paid very poorly. We didn't have, NHIF was not what NHIF is right now. So I veered off into research, and it's something that I used to do when I was a medical student. So I guess I think I've been a hustler, so to speak, right from the beginning. And I think it's born from what I saw my mother doing and the fact that she had 8 children to take care of.
Wow.
Yeah, so she did everything she could to ensure that you went to good schools, went to the university. And so for me, trying out things here and there. Oh, I also mentioned that I'm farming also, so I don't know whether that's a business, but it does
Okay.
bring some income.
Uh-huh.
So I think I've just always had something else I'm doing with my time that's not just purely medicine. And so it was easier for me to transition out to other fields of healthcare. And for the most part, in that time, we were pioneers in many of these fields, from the pharmaceutical sector to research to NGO work. And I got to know that there was something we could offer in the healthcare space, apart from seeing patients, and also just the fact that the impact is at a population level.
Mhm.
And when I tried now mentoring other people into the field, I realized there was a big gap because there was a lot of training that I was exposed to while in some of these private companies, for example, training on presentation skills, media appearances, those are skills that are really not taught in undergraduate. And I felt when we were looking for a position and there were different CVs, doctors really fared poorly. And that's because they knew, or we know how to treat. We don't know how to package ourselves
Right.
for opportunities that are out there. So Beyond the Stethoscope was born from that sense because I kept on getting people asking me, oh, please mentor me on this and that. And I felt I could create a company out of it. I looked for a like-minded doctor who had also was now he's in business in the business of healthcare, and so we formed. And it's looking at three angles. One is on the career, so
Mhm.
just packaging. We have something called Equipped for Tomorrow, so just taking doctors through an emotional intelligence journey, which involves a lot of introspection into your own personality, goes into packaging your CV, goes into your brand out there on LinkedIn, your visibility, and goes into presentation skills in terms of if you're looking for opportunities. Then we have other opportunities in terms of mental health,
Mhm.
because we do believe that medics are really facing a lot of psychosocial issues.
Yeah.
As a career by itself, it is prone to very high mental health stress,
Yeah.
but also individually because we are all channeling ourselves through this life's journey. And then we make the worst patients as doctors. And I think I got that insight when I was going through my own personal journey, which was my marriage was really under the rocks. And I could not imagine that me who's extroverted could actually be at the brink of depression. And
Mhm.
that's because I had to put this mask. I had to be very strong. I had to look like everything was together. And the employer that I was working for at that time had services, psychosocial services, and that were available to us. So I just said, okay, now that I've read all the books and I'm not getting solutions to my problems, then let me seek the services of a therapist. So
Yeah.
that's I realized then we fear being stigmatized because how can we be providing services that provide health
Yeah.
and we can't take care of our own health? So we have something called physician heal thyself, just to give people that safe space of where they can come to and say, look, I'm struggling with this, or I need support on this and that.
Okay.
And then the last but not least is around social wellness. So this now marries my love for fun, traveling, social activities, because we don't take time as doctors. It's always you're running from one hospital to another. You don't take time to just breathe and even enjoy the labor of your hands. So the fun part is now married to the other company that I run, which is Wanderlust Diaries.
Excellent. Now, you've said something very significant there. You've talked about your marriage failing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that your family is very, very important to you. You're a mother of four.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah. So I'm raising my four kids. They're
Yeah.
teenagers right now, where you, and it's a very difficult.
Congratulations. I know.
Every day has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
But I have a son who's 15 right now, and
Wow.
then I have triplet girls who are 13.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was married for 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm divorced now for, I think, 8 or 9 years. I lost track at some
Okay.
point.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but the divorce was a very tough season,
Okay.
and that's because I think as a person I'm a fixer.
Okay.
And I came to, of course, realize this after therapy and after doing all those personality tests. And being a fixer meant that you see something that's broken and you try to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And some things are not fixable, if there's such an English word, that especially people, they need to fix themselves. So I think by the time I was realizing that I couldn't fix the situation, it had really taken a toll on me. And so eventually I said, you know what, one of us has to be sane enough to raise these children, because now the children were there. I had a very demanding job. And when I made the decision to leave, it was from a point of, I've really tried everything. And I remember there's a time I even thought maybe being a widow was better. And
Oh.
I would see myself in a black dress, because everyone would sympathize with a woman who's, has been left with 4 children and,
Mm-hmm.
will take care of you. But a divorcee brings a very different stigma to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the courage to walk out came from just a series of just therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and also just saying, I'm forgiving myself for not thinking that I can fix it. Because I think that's what I struggle the most.
Okay.
Because I'm succeeding in parenting, I'm succeeding at work, and then I'm not succeeding in this marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it came with a lot of release, of course. It came with a lot of peace of mind, but also it came with, of course, the stigma. I think for me, the biggest challenge is the stigma we've put on people whose marriages have gone down the drain. And I believe many of my friends, because I started talking about it, and for me, writing is therapy. And I think putting it out there again became stigmatizing, because why are you exposing your linen, dirty linen, to the public? But for me, writing is a therapy, a form of release. And I usually write for myself, but then I realized the writing draws other people and gives them confidence to also be vulnerable. So that vulnerability really, I think, it comes with me. I think I'm so used to, if I can't talk to someone, I can actually talk to a Paul. As in, I have to speak it, I have to write it out. And by writing, I not only release myself, I also get a lot of feedback. In fact, most of the decisions that I make, whether it's in business, in my life, in my what, if I'm stuck somewhere, I just put it out there. I say,
Right.
where can I go for this? Or what can I do in this situation? How can I support my teenage son into, navigating this course? And I get so many resources. I get people offering, I get insights, I get people sharing and saying, this is also me, and we work together.
Mm-hmm.
So that bore a hashtag that I like using, called hashtag Single Lives Matter.
Yes. I think we're all.
Because
In fact, you even started a dating.
yes, then there's the dating site. So that's why I said I was listing for you the ones that Karen knows. But
Yeah.
I think just to demystify that coming from a broken marriage is failure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because we have defined failure by certain checkboxes in society. And so when you are not able to check a certain box, you feel like you failed. But then who decided this is the marking scheme?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that liberation for me was very, very significant, because I said, I'm the one who knows my journey. I know what I've put in through. I know where I am in this space, and I know what that's doing to me as a person. So I encourage people to define their own paths. I think I give people the courage to just reflect and I tell people, the ones who approach me, I tell them just have a, pros and cons list. If the cons is longer than the pros, then perhaps you should think about doing something. But I also encourage people to seek professional help, because there are some things that are beyond your own capability to sort it out. So, in a nutshell, I think that's my story of marriage. So, I would not say it's a failure. It's a failure, I guess, according to society. But for me, I think it was a season to go through. It gave me four very lovely children.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate there were the good times in that marriage, and then there were the bad times, and so it's a season. And I think that's how I take life as it comes. It can't be smooth throughout. So I think it's just an encouragement to anyone who may be struggling out there, that you're not a failure because a relationship hasn't worked out. And I see people going back after marriage, and I really see them thriving. So these opportunities are there. So I think once you've worked on your own issues, or on your own, like for me, I had a very bad enabling behavior that I needed to work on, because I carried it forward to other relationships. So I needed to say, you know what, why are you attracting this kind of people into your life?
Right.
Yeah. And so I had to work on that a lot. So I had to learn to say no, and saying no for me was very liberating, but it takes a lot of self-work.
Okay. So, are you looking forward to getting married again?
I don't think so.
No?
I would say our laws are such that when you want to get out, it's very dirty. It's very energy sapping. At least my experience, what I went through. And I also think we come into relationships with different expectations. Sometimes I wonder whether we have a soulmate thing. I guess for me, I don't expect that I have a soulmate out there. I may have soulmates out there.
Right. Yes.
And I think just the aspect that if I get bored, if if it doesn't work out, that I can't leave as fast as I want to. Maybe I'm running away from commitment in a way, but I think I'm happy where I am. I'm happy with a partnership. I think you get to a space where you become so independent that right now, if just the thought of thinking that I'm tied down, and you see the way I'm looking at it as being tied down,
Yeah.
that it is a lifelong thing, I think that scares me a bit, because I have worked on my personality, and I'm the type who wants to try many different things, and I think I may get bored. Yeah, so just leaving that room for, you know what, it's okay, I can date, and I can also stay without dating. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So now let's branch off into entrepreneurship. At what point did you decide I want to, focus on making money for myself as opposed to being in employment?
So I've always had, not always had, for the most part, I was fully employed, dedicated to that. But I'll always be doing something on the side. It may not be income generating,
Yeah.
but it would take my time. Because for me, I think I can multitask. I can do several things at the same time. And it actually took the coaching of the executive coaching of a friend of mine called Sarah Richson to tell me to my face that, Wala, you're going to die passionately poor. Because I was so passionate about many causes. I am a fixer. So
Right.
I had preemies. I started a preemie group for moms with preemies.
Yes, I remember
I
that.
have
yeah.
a multiples group.
Yes.
So all these are just from passion. But I was not turning them into income generating. And so I had to take a step back and say, I need to actually convert this into income. So the Nyarai business, of course, started directly as an income generating. But the Wanderlust one, I really had to say, how do I turn this passion into profit? And it luckily it came with a grant. I got a grant from Meta
Wow.
in 2021. Yeah, $50,000,
Mm-hmm.
and the grant came with training on how to convert communities into businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And that training was very intense. It was 8 months. And it was during the time of COVID, and I was changing jobs. So at some point, the employer then, I mean, there was something that wasn't really right. I don't know whether it was COVID or I just couldn't feel my energy, the energy that I had previously.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, let me take a risk and try this employment full time, because now I have established, I've seen that I can actually run a business based on the coaching that I got from the Meta
Mm-hmm.
training. So I took a 1 year off. It was very bad timing because
Um,
it was in the year of elections,
yeah.
and I didn't know that, because I am the type to I take risks, as many of them not calculated.
Mm-hmm.
So I can succeed exceedingly well, and I can fail, remarkably.
Mm-hmm.
um, so the business was doing very well before COVID, before elections, but then because most of our work was tied towards government partnerships, there was a lull in government engagements. No one was committing to any partnerships. And then when we had a new government, again, it took a long while to get um, office bearers in place.
Uh-huh.
And so I realized I had started dipping into my savings.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd started borrowing from my siblings and a couple of friends. And I knew it was not sustainable.
Right.
So I had to tell myself, you know what, and then I had thought I'd rely on consultancies on the health sector.
Mm-hmm.
But the consultancy space is a cartel of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
It is the same people getting the same work. So unless you get into, someone gives you something of what they've done, it's very hard to penetrate when you're new. So I struggled. And I had to face myself. And I said, you have needs, very big needs, given the children that you're raising alone. Given the fact that I had taken some money to put up the Airbnb, that's the Coven Cottage. So I had two rents to pay, the rent for my place and the rent for that cottage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized I was actually getting into a financial crisis, and I had to go back to employment.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I also had to sell a property, which was very sad, but it was necessary because I had to pay off debts that I had. There's nothing I fear as bad as debts in my
Yeah.
life. So that the sale of the property, and when you're doing it's a distress sell, you'll actually sell it at a
Yeah.
lower value than what it should, but at least I got it off my back, because it's not easy to sell land,
Mm-hmm.
especially during that time of post elections.
Yeah.
So that's how I got back into employment. But then I had also missed the health side. So I'm still passionate about my health sector, the policy side, the just impacting on a population level. I'm very passionate about it. So the businesses were giving me an income, but it was a different sort of satisfaction. It was not tapping into my training intellectual side. So I still needed that stimulation from the health side to get back into that space and start impacting on lives.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, running the businesses, and you're very open about the struggles that you faced on social media. So I can ask this with absolute
Sure.
confidence. Running your businesses hasn't been easy. You've seen challenges,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's talk about the challenges with Coven Cottage for starters. What inspired you to open it in the first place? And then it sounds to me like it was draining more than it was giving you back.
Yeah.
And then why did you shut it down?
Okay. So Coven Cottage, I love. I have an eclectic taste in many things.
Uh-huh.
And the neighborhood that I moved into during the COVID period has these old quaint cottages, and it's in a very it's in the middle of a forest or something. It's surrounded by a forest, so we're always battling baboons, birds. So it's a very peaceful place. In my head, it is very
Right.
peaceful. And so when this opportunity came, my landlady had that facility available. I could see I am a fixer again.
Yes.
And I saw this old cottage that I could turn around into a space where people could come and retreat. And during the COVID period, people are looking for places they could just escape. And it's in an area where, there's a lot of privacy. No one knows that there's a cottage around there that's out for rental. It's very also very peaceful. And I partnered with two of my friends who are interior designers, and we converted it into a space that was very Afrocentric, that had upcycled stuff, because I'm all about sustainability, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it. So I pumped in a lot of money and into just changing it or stuffing, putting in furniture and whatnot, resourcing it. And I also had an art gallery from young people.
Wow.
So I had this, it's almost like a boho ish kind of space. And so the fact that I also had a platform where I could advertise for free to around 400,000 people
Mm-hmm.
was an opportunity to, market it. But I realized that the population that needed a space like that were not traveling as much, because I remember it was COVID. So a lot of it was being taken up by people coming to host parties, and the neighborhood that I stay in does not take
Right.
yeah, kindly towards parties. So it had started, attracting negative attention from the neighborhood. But even for me myself, I did not envision it to be a party place. It's a quiet, serene place. Yeah. So it now became, and then the people who are looking for spaces for parties they were also being guided by budget. And my pricing was such that I was looking at the effort I'd put into it, plus just that concept of sustainability, because they usually it's expensive to go the sustainable way, the green way, because I didn't have single use plastics. I had upcycled materials, I had local furniture, local food, and whatnot, solar. So those things cost, so it'll be much more expensive than if you had a flat that had, the usual amenities. So the pricing also didn't work for this market of parties. And so I started now struggling because of that. But what I did is I married it now with one of my businesses, so the Domestic Worker Bureau. I started training girls. Um, so I now rented it out to the bureau to use, I think, 3 weeks in a month, and that sustained it. In fact, I didn't need to have visitors with that concept. But then it came a time where the type of training that I was giving in those 5 days was not enough. So then I was getting now feedback from my clients on the Nyarai side that, oh, we are paying much more for these domestic workers, but they don't know how to do this, they don't know how to do that. And I realized the 5 days was not enough. So I had to actually stop. Or you'd put in the training because you've invested in it, and then the girls go and they switch off their phones. So it was tough. So the training angle of Nyarai also didn't work. After 8 cohorts, I had to stop because I was putting in money and then it was not coming back. Or I have to replace those girls. So the brand Nyarai was suffering. So long and short of it, I had to make the decision to actually close the place. Luckily, my landlady understood. I gave out my notice. But now my biggest thing was, okay, what do I do with all this stuff? Because it's a whole house.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So where do I take it? And there are some pieces that are very sentimental because it was also built and structured to that place, like the dining bar area. The way it was built for that room. So it's very hard to transfer it to another space. But I got someone who took over some of the items, or rather bought some of the items. And then in my grand plans, yes, I did mention I bought an aeroplane.
I I saw that.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so in my eclectic space, one of my friends, Anyango, Zanta Dede, and you need to interview her because she has also an exciting story
Wow, I'll
of
find her.
failure effect. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we have the same taste in in design and fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day she approached me and she said, "You know, at least let's go and buy an aeroplane." And she shared with me this Kenya Airports Authority auction bid.
Mm-hmm.
And, I said, "Okay, what are we going to do with an aeroplane?" She said, "I don't know, but we can
Let's buy
convert
it.
it." Yeah. So that's how we ended up going to the bid auction and got a plane. And then we hadn't figured out that we'd be given 7 days to get that plane out. And it was a big plane. It's a Fokker 27.
Uh-huh.
So long story short, it costed us as much to haul it out of the airport and take it to the current place. So in my grand scheme of things, I still had this project of the plane
Mm-hmm.
because we needed to design it into a boutique space, a
Yeah.
boutique hotel. So I wasn't feeling so much pain for the staff in Covent Cottage because I knew there was this other project that I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I just built a small shack in where the plane is. I've stored. I got it. I got the items very well wrapped, but the movers did a fantastic job. But I remember on that day I broke down. I
Wow.
didn't even go to check out. I just told Evelyn. She runs the moving company. I said, Evelyn, I trust you with the items. Just take them to this place. And she did a great job. She wrapped everything. She put for me an inventory. But that day I actually broke down because
Yeah.
it was like the failure effect. This is
Mm-hmm.
something I've put some. I'm like, why can't people see the beauty of this space?
Yeah.
So and yeah, so the stuff was taken, and then I now put my energy. I think for me, I have so much energy, so I have to be doing a project. So now I put my energy into developing the plane. So that's where we are at now. We have hopefully September. Covent Cottage will be back.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe with
Uh-huh.
another brand name, but still.
Yeah.
But now on the plain side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we are doing this boutique resort, three rooms only, exclusive, and half plain, half building, which is the first of its kind. So I wouldn't say Coven was a failure. I would say it gave birth to this other project.
Wow, I mean that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see that your project is still, alive and kicking. It's
Mm,
morphing. It's
mm,
because a lot of people will tell you when they walk into a business, you walk into a business with this idea,
mm,
and then along the way, the
mm.
business takes over and says, "No, actually, this is what I want to grow up and become."
Yeah.
And so the business leads you. So it's great to see this.
Yeah.
But throughout running Coven Cottage and its shutdown, what lessons did you take home?
I think the biggest lesson is understanding your market.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe if the cottage was not in Nairobi, so people had to drive out to it,
Yeah.
it would attract more people. Because people, I think, didn't feel they've gone somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I believe, like where I'm building, which is in Kiserian, the drive itself, someone psychologically gets this feeling that I'm going for a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Coven was right in Nairobi. So that's one thing. The other thing is in understanding the times, external factors. And I think maybe that's why I didn't beat myself too much because I did put in my best and both in resources but also in time and energy. but the timing was just bad because shortly before elections, then the COVID restrictions were lifted, and so people could host their bashes at home.
Yeah.
And that just changed everything. And then elections came, and everyone was waiting, like people are sitting on their money, waiting to see how it goes.
Yeah.
So we didn't have much business for those because travel is seen as a leisure activity rather than
A
an
necessity.
essential thing to just recharge and break off.
Yeah.
It's also deemed to be expensive. And so the first thing that travelers, from what I get from the Wanderlust group, the first thing that people cut down on is accommodation. So people will pay for the activities, but they'll go and look for something, somewhere where they're paying the minimum or they can eat out and just come and sleep. So even within the travel space, accommodation is the first one that people really cut down on. And I think also maybe we need to also groom people more on experiences around sustainability, because I think we still have a long way to go to appreciate that one facility has a different pricing because they're looking at a sustainability angle. I got a lot of that backlash that, oh, yeah, we told you this pricing was too high, whatnot. But I think for the amount there are people who paid without batting an eyelid, and that's because they understood the sustainability concept. So I think if we have a lot more of awareness and socialization around green buildings or green travel, then we'd appreciate some things a bit more. But last but not least, I think what I learned is you fail, you cry when you're there, dust yourself up and get up.
Right.
Yeah, because the crying happened.
Yes.
Yeah, but then you don't stay there. And I think when I wrote about it, I realized so many people were going through transitions in their businesses. And it is sad. It was tragic, of course, but it was also consoling that you're not alone. So sometimes you may think that you've lost it, and people have lost millions. Mine was it was over 1 million, but it wasn't to the proportion that some of those stories gave.
Yeah.
And people take risks, and they're still alive, and they tomorrow they wake up to take another risk. So I got that lesson of, yes, it didn't work, but now you learned a new way of doing things. So I took the lessons from it rather than staying, depressed or whatever.
Indeed. Now, let's talk about the second business, because I know you alluded to something happening on Facebook and didn't quite explain what was going on. So I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who are curious to know what happened with Nyarai. Like, there's an incident.
Oh, I was going to wonder. Yeah, that's your wild card.
Yeah.
So Nyarai started as a partnership with my then nanny. So I used to have two nannies because the children were triplets and a toddler. And so once the children went off to school, I redistributed some chores. I bought a washing machine, so things were lighter for whoever stayed behind. And so there was time on her hands, and we deliberated, what do we do this time? Because she's an entrepreneur also, and I give her that credit. And so we looked at various options. One was an eatery, because we both love cooking. But the space that we had hoped to get was taken up. And so when I was with her, I really kept on being asked for referrals, and she'd be the one doing it. So we decided, okay, maybe a nanny business would do. And so that's how we started. I registered the business, but so the papers are all under me. But in terms of, for the sake of it, everything was 50-50.
Right.
Yeah, and we grew. We operated in my house for 4 years. That meant a lot of personal space being taken up. In fact, it was a one-story maisonette, and we were basically living on on the top floor
Mm-hmm.
because interviews are being done in the sitting room and whatnot. So for the 4 years, there's a lot that I had to sacrifice. My kids had to sacrifice their space. At some point, I battled with bed bugs for a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad because, you'd order a nanny, we'd bring someone from the rural areas, and
Mm-hmm.
then you don't come for them. So what do we do with them? So we have to host them.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of traffic. It was crazy. So when I moved to my current neighborhood, of course, I couldn't do that business there. It is very controlled
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked for a commercial space.
Okay.
Now, when I looked for a commercial space, it meant that now I had to put in processes. In fact, that's the time now I started running entrepreneurship workshops for ladies because I'm very passionate about women in business. And I got support from banks and insurance, and they would come and fund those workshops. So in one of the workshops, I decided let me sit in as a student because I had checked Wanderlust was doing very well. Coven Cottage, it was actually in Coven Cottage. But Nyarai had always been a mattress kind of business,
Right.
not registered. Okay, it had a business name, but no account, no phone number, nothing.
Right.
So the training helped me because we were given a checklist by Sandbox,
Mm-hmm.
Joram of Sandbox, and
Mm-hmm.
it was almost like a temperature control check for your business. And I did it for Nyarai, and I think I scored zero or a negative because I didn't have even I didn't have many things. Nyarai ran through word of mouth and
Right.
one flyer for 4 years, one
Wow.
flyer on Facebook. So I started putting in systems, of course, and that meant converting it into a company. It meant getting a bank account, a dedicated phone number, a till number, proper records, and whatnot. So one of the days, I started noticing a bit of resistance
Mm-hmm.
because I had trusted like 120%. So if you tell me, because I'm so busy again running all these other things and having a very demanding job, if you tell me at the end of the month we have X amount, I will take it that it's X amount that came.
Mm-hmm.
So X amount comes, we divide it into two. Most of the time I've eaten into my share because gas has run out, and I'll be like, I'm in a meeting, just use the cash that's there.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of delegation, which is a lesson that I learned from my part, without systems. So when the system started coming on board, then there was a bit of resistance. And at some point, I remember I was in Afri Cities in Kisumu. I think that was May last year. I got this email from a client showing proof that they've paid. So remember, now we have changed our social media handles. They have the phone number, they have the proper email address. I got hold of a domain name without, it's now when we're doing the website. And so when I opened the message, uh, it was the Safaricom M-Pesa slip.
Mm-hmm.
And when you open, you find, the money has been sent to a personal number. Yet we'd had the
You have a
till number
till.
from January. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I was really shocked because I didn't believe that could happen. So I called and asked why is that. No, I sent the email to my number, to my personal email, and then I wrote to the client. I said, look, I'm so and so, I'm the owner of this business. I just want to know whether you are offered a till number to pay for this service. So the
Mm-hmm.
client responded with evidence and said, no, this is the number I was given to pay. So that's when I realized that there is something fishy going on.
Yeah.
And I think for me it was very, very like someone had stabbed me in the back
Yeah.
because this is someone we've lived in for like 10, 11 years,
Yeah.
ran the business. This was like our fifth year of running the business. And then because of the trust you'd put, or maybe you was just too busy, I didn't believe that could happen because I thought we were open. And, at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the month, we had now an accountant who would say, okay, this is your income after removing the expenses. Then we split it up. So I called and asked what's going on. And, it became first of all, a denial, then gaslighting.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't deal because Afrocities was a mess.
Uh-huh.
So I said, okay, let me take care of Afrocities now. Then I'll come and deal with it. So when we came back, we had again started now the trainings. Basically, it slipped. I never addressed it, but it was at the back of my mind. But later, when I closed Coven Cottage, because it was being managed by my driver.
Mm-hmm.
So the driver's salary was coming from Coven Cottage. So I told her, because I don't want to cut down your salary,
Mm-hmm.
you go into Nyarai so that you keep for me records, because she had a bit of computer literacy.
Okay.
And then there's an organization that had approached us to fund us, and they needed records. And I realized I don't know how many people I have who come into my doors and how many I give out. And that's because the forms were not being followed. So
Yeah.
they were using a book to record things. So that was really resisted.
Uh-huh.
And I told now my partner, I said, you know what? It's not an option. It is, I am telling you that this person is coming to work here from November going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short is I discovered, because I got a way of getting a statement, and I discovered I'd lost over 400,000.
My
Yeah,
goodness.
between January and October that time.
Wow.
And I was receiving, I remember receiving this report when I was in the US. I'd taken my daughter to the US.
Uh-huh. For the
And
for the those are
the
a
trip.
tournament. Yes.
Yes, there was a tournament that she was participating in. And this person said, are you somewhere you can sit down? I said, okay. So sent me the report, and it was just crazy. And I called one of the people, because it was a doctor who I had referred to get a driver from us.
Yeah.
And I called him and I said, Doc, when you got a driver from us, where did you pay? Where were you told to pay? Because that was as recent as, I think, August.
Yeah.
And the doctor was like, no, I was not given a till number. And I was in a hurry, and they said, just pay into this number. So cumulatively, I had lost over 400,000 had been channeled through that account.
Oh my gosh.
And then the same week, I'm still in the US. This lady writes to me, and I really thank that lady. I even forget her name. I need to go back to my email. And she's like, I'm so and so, and a, I am a woman who runs a business, and I came to your business. And what you write about that business and what I saw are two different things. So I just want to give you feedback. So I told her, you know what, I'm not roaming. It was on email. I said, there's a number that's going to call you. So I told a friend of mine, please call this lady. So the friend is the one who gave me feedback. And she said, you know what, this client came, needed these specs in terms of the worker, was given different specs, people with outrageous demands. And then when she couldn't find a suitable person, she was told, don't worry, if you can't get from here, I've opened my own bureau in this and this place. You can
Allah.
come. Yeah, I was telling you, I think Eva Coven is not a failure. Nyarai, that one was a big failure, because it was just shocker upon shocker.
Yeah.
So here I am. I have been given the statement, and I've been given feedback that there's actually a parallel business being run. So I came back, and now my quagmire was that this is someone who also works in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And this is someone the children have known
Yeah.
their whole life. They don't know any other person, especially for the girls. So because if I terminate, because I was very clear in my mind, we are going separate ways. And if I terminate, then it also means I have to make adjustments in the house. Yeah, so that's what I did. But when I came and told her, okay, it looks like I'll have to get a day back from January, she's like, no. Actually, I had planned to leave in December. So yeah, so it was just another shocker. So yeah, so all this was being planned. Apparently, from what I gather, is she had laid her path. She
Yeah.
had built her business. So December she was going to transition out. So I said, you know what, you don't have to wait till December. Just hand over the business, the phone, and the keys, 2 phones and the keys. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm starting from scratch.
Okay.
So I got to work with other, and it's important to share stories because before I traveled, I'd met this lady who runs a training institution for domestic workers,
Mm-hmm.
and she shared her story of 20 years of how she started out and whatnot. And I told her, please, I'm going through this. And she's like, you know what? You need an employee.
Mm-hmm.
You should not work on a partnership because the partnership has been abused.
Yeah.
So I can give you a couple of names, interview them, then get them on board as employees with very clear job description,
Yeah.
boundaries, roles, whatever expectations. And so that's what I did. So I got someone on board. We parted ways. It was not a very easy parting
Yeah.
because there was also the issue of labor. Labor, the labor people came for me also on the domestic worker side. Yeah. So eventually, I
Wait,
got,
wait, wait, wait. So
yeah.
when you say, was it because she said you owed her dues, or was this purely related to the business?
No, this was now on owing dues.
Okay.
And on owing dues, there was a lot of fabrication in terms of,
Yeah.
so service charge, that's okay because
Mm-hmm.
that's legal.
Yeah.
But overtime and summary dismissal, because she
Okay.
left my house.
Yeah.
I woke up one day and she was gone. So then the calculation was just ridiculous because it came to over 1.2 million.
Wow.
Yes.
So she's taken your 400,000 and now she wants one. Wow.
Yeah, but the calculation was ridiculous because I think these people just used
Yeah.
a template from other people. So I don't think they did edit because if you did the math, it was like 400K.
Mm-hmm.
So I told her, look, we have two options. May I have an OB number, which is it's a criminal offense because
Yeah.
it's obtaining by false pretense. It's
Mm-hmm.
as in it will land you in jail.
Yeah.
Mine is a civil case. It
Yeah.
is about raising my service charge because the rest is neither here nor there. Service charge was 120,000, I think. So you choose your, yeah.
Yeah. Choose your struggle.
Yeah, choose your struggle.
Uh-huh.
Because I mean, stories really came out. Like, people were afraid of telling me things that are going through there. And I think I felt bad. I felt bad that you pose as my friend, but you can't tell me, Liz, I came to your place and I was actually told to pay to a personal number.
Yeah.
Guys came out and said, yeah. In fact, there's one who said, you were actually there when I paid to her number. So I'm like, okay. So you are also abetting crime because you know there's a till number, but whichever way you've negotiated, maybe it's a lower rate, it's going to now a personal number. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really um I really took time to process that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the flip side is because I came now with the employer employee thing. The same friend helped me to interview for the current manager, put down expectations. She
Mm-hmm.
came in, and I think that December, until my accountant told me there's something you're doing. You've doubled your income. I mean, you've hit your highest target and December is usually a worst month
Mm-hmm.
because everyone is going on leave and whatnot. And it's just because of the person who came on board. And so many things opened up. I got a grant this year. We are running the grant very well.
For Nyarai.
For Nyarai, yes. I
Okay.
didn't even know NGOs can give companies grants.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we're doing something around early childhood development. I got partners. I got, like, now we are forming an association of agencies just to bring in order into that because that space is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
We have people doing very unscrupulous business. So we want to bring a bit of sanity around it. So there's this conversation, like it's breathed a new life, a new
Mm-hmm.
lease to life. And even the ladies who are there, those talk about nepotism and bribing to get interviews.
Yeah.
So I told them, here's my number. If you notice anything in this business, I am a phone call away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I also realized I'd really detached and delegated a lot. So nowadays I make sure at least once a week I pass through the office. Um, and I've seen a tremendous growth.
Wow.
So I think from that, I don't know whether that's failure, but it is. Yeah, it's failure on my part for not being diligent,
Oh,
but or not putting in processes.
mhm.
But I think it was a very painful one.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear once again. I mean, because you're right, you need to professionalize the business in order for it to grow. We've all, I think, had experiences starting businesses with a friend, a relative.
Oh,
Then it falls apart because, but
yeah,
Joanna,
yeah.
and, so this is cool. But the two words that you mentioned that I want to delve into, backlash, because I know this is something that you are uh, not a stranger to, and specifically in relation to Wanderlust Diaries. Yeah, because I see, I mean, obviously, if you have an entity on Facebook, you will encounter backlash. It doesn't matter how innocent, how loving, how positive your posts or your energy is. People will always find a way to come back at you. And there's a lot that you've experienced running Wanderlust Diaries. So, shall we go into that?
Yes. So I think one, I'll say Kenyans are very angry. Generally, a very angry population, and they seek to release that anger on people that they don't know. I think
Yeah.
anonymity
Anonymity of social
of social
media.
media,
Yeah.
yeah, gives people the courage to really say nasty things. And some of us are like I get hurt by words. I am a
Okay.
word person. I write, I express myself through words, but I also like you can deny me gifts or whatever or money, but if you speak something to me, it sits in my mind. So this is a revelation that I had after going through therapy, that a lot of things were said that, really took into, planted seeds in, negative seeds into me. So I learned to detach from the words because that's my Achilles heel. But the other thing is just understanding that it's a difficult season for many people. And whether it is from the political angle, because I've really been trolled on the political angle, to my lifestyle sharing, to whatnot, people are projecting a lot of what they're going through. So with Wanderlust, one is it started without a plan. I mean, I just needed a community of people. I've created groups before, but I just needed a community of people that could come and share. I had no business in mind with it. It was a social space, and I think after a week I realized, oh, 100,000 people.
Wow.
What can we do with 100,000 people?
Wait,
Yeah.
hold up. How did you manage to collect 100,000 people in one space? Like, what's the magic? What's the secret recipe that you used?
I don't know if it's a recipe. I write. So I've been writing about my travels, posting on my timeline, and I have a blog that I used to post on. So I had naturally developed a following on people who love to know where can I take my children for this and
Right.
that. So it's become a snowballing thing.
Okay.
Like so I started sharing because now we couldn't travel during COVID, the initial days. So I think it just grew from, and I think people are looking for a space at that time to socialize because we were grounded, all of us at
Yeah.
home. So the circumstances or the context of the COVID really helped to build a community, but also just the fact that people found a like minded space of sharing, and it's sharing positive stories. And I remember initially you could just post directly until we started getting pornography
Yeah.
because you're sleeping and someone else is awake and you wake up and you find, ooh, people are
Yeah.
fighting in the group.
Yeah.
So at least Facebook introduced certain features. So the admin assist features really, really helped. There was a lot of bullying. Actually, we've lost quite a number of avid travelers because of that bullying that started happening. So someone has posted their picture in a swimsuit in the beach.
Ah.
And someone is like, oh, you're a whole mother. How can your son see? So we started now blocking people,
Okay.
weeding them out. We put down rules. It was just me and another friend of mine, and I realized I needed more moderators, especially people who are night owls. Because also the diaspora people started saying, "Oh, but our posts are taking so long because we have to wait for you guys to wake up."
Yeah.
So I brought in 8 other moderators, and they really, really have been helpful, and they've worked with me ever since without a single pay. Um, the other thing that we did is now we rallied people into speaking up for others. So because we can't be in all those comments, and a post can garner 1,000 comments.
Yeah.
So we tell people, please report, please tag us, please tag us. So we became now self-regulating. The members stood with so many people who are being trolled. And then we also put in features, as I mentioned. So, for example, we do not admit there's a bot on Facebook that you can set it up. So, for example, accounts that are less than 1 year old, they're automatically dismissed in 1 hour.
Yeah.
So you can put certain features. Or if someone has not answered the questions, whether you're a traveler or not, you need to answer the questions.
Yeah.
And so the bot really helps in weeding out. So that's why we've stagnated at around 400,000, because it's now, little, we really vet people who are coming in. But the other thing that happened is now when people saw me posting a till number, and guys are like, "What? Are we shareholders in this business? You're just using us. I don't know what." So luckily, the group has always had a limited on it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
because you know what Kenyans did? They came and formed 6 other Wanderlust diaries,
Yes.
complete with even stealing my logo.
Wow.
So I had to put LTD. So when that thing came, I said, you joined the group. What was the name of the group you joined? Did you see LTD? Do you know what LTD means? And I had many people supporting, and they said, you know what, as long as the members are not the ones being charged, because the marketing is by the trade partners.
Yeah.
And trade partners are in business. So they are not complaining. You are not paying. So where's the problem? In fact, initially it was, we will report this group, we will bring it down. Okay, Kenyans. So I told them, try. Because now even in the background, I think initially Facebook was not allowing people to make money out of groups. But now we are in an 8-month program, accelerator program, to be trained on how to make money. But you see, because you've not asked me, you've already concluded that I'm flouting Facebook rules. I say, okay, go and report.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I have had a lot of support from members, and especially the issue of minority groups being trolled, women being trolled.
Yeah.
So we have sort of put an end to that, but
Okay.
it took a lot of. At some point, I had to. There's a button for switching off, not slowing down. Like no one can comment, no one can post. I needed to sleep.
Yeah.
So I turned it on for like a day. And guys could not believe, because it was that time, I think there was a hashtag trending for food prices, lower food prices.
Yes. I remember the controversy. Yes.
Then now they brought it in Wanderlust. Then I told them, this is not the space, because someone has posted a lovely post of where they went and how exciting it was. Then all the comments are hashtag lower food prices. I told them, no, you're not doing it in my group.
Yeah.
So that's when now people became vicious. You're living in middle class. You're what. So I just turned off the group. I said, okay, now you can't post. So now, it's been fun. I think we've matured. We went through the storming phase. It was very long.
It's character development.
Yeah. But I think people have seen, and the trade partners have appreciated. Yeah, because we're trying to also keep it as much into conversations rather than marketing. So like a trip advisor of sorts. And we've had amazing social accountability aspects that have come out of it. I mean, we've seen crocodiles that were in the former Mamba village rescued by KWS because people posted. We've seen racism addressed in some of these hotels. We've seen the other day we had a child with autism who was beaten up by a matatu driver, and it's gone viral to the police.
Yeah.
We've seen police themselves this year, not DCI, the NPS, talking about and telling people thank you for raising issues
Yeah.
within the Wanderlust group.
Wow.
So it has built that awareness on traveling responsibly, traveling safely, and for me that's a bigger
That's the
impact.
most, yeah.
That it's changing people. People are seeing I can travel on a budget. I can travel for luxury. We have people asking for helicopters in that group.
Wow.
Where can I get a helicopter and stuff?
Yeah.
So I think it's been amazing. I enjoy being and the fun bit. I think it really took away the stress of COVID because there was a lot of humor being shared
Yeah.
and just reminiscing. And now it has opened up the country, and it has given us our first work with Makueni County.
Excellent.
Yes, we did a
Yes.
tourism circuit for Makueni County.
Yeah.
So we are hoping other counties come on board, and that's from just the sharing and opening up the country to other people.
Okay. That's excellent. I mean, I really, really hate to get to this part
Yeah.
where I have to say final question
Yeah.
because I feel like we still haven't plumbed the depths of your story, but maybe we'll have an opportunity,
Sure.
for part two soon. But my final question, what does it take to get a Facebook grant? Because, I'm pretty sure people with small groups are wondering,
Yeah.
how does it work?
So there's one is, are you having a group that's building that has social impact?
Yeah.
Because that's what they're promoting, communities. So when Zuckerberg took over, when it went the meta way,
Yes.
they looked at how do we bring more people together. So apart from their usual advertising, they realized groups are powerful tools for driving social impact. So every year, Facebook puts out a call, and any group is eligible. And usually, the thing is just to demonstrate what social impact you have. So that's how I got into it. Someone sent me, someone who had received it the previous year. She was running this. It's a pregnancy loss group.
Okay.
Yeah. And she, at that time, she had even gone all the way to Savannah in the US. So during COVID, of course, now there was not much travel. And that's how I put in the bid. There's a group for Facebook admins. Yeah. In sub-Saharan Africa. So also tips on how to run groups, tips on how to make money, tips on how to host. I'm the one who's just not tapped into so many features that the community has given. And so that's how the grants came about. So every year, and it is
Right.
Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa.
Okay.
Usually those three countries.
Yeah.
So I saw this year they picked a community of mothers. I think she's based in Nakuru.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it has a second phase of funding also, and they keep you in touch.
Wow.
Yeah, with many other opportunities, resources, whatnot. So it's
Yeah.
it's just about you applying for it. Yeah.
Excellent. Gosh, now we know, and now you all know as well. So you know what? Go over there, open that social, that Facebook group that you've always wanted to open that has social impact, and get yourself a grant. Now, Amakovi, thank you so much for your
You're
time
welcome.
and for the invaluable lessons that you have given us today. We will be reaching out to you soon again to continue with this conversation.
You'll
'Cause like I
come for
said-
the opening of
Yay!
Coven Cottage 2.
Excellent. The aeroplane. I can't wait to see how it comes out because the plans look really beautiful.
Thank you.
And for those of you who'd like to follow her, you can use the social media handles that you see on the screen. And you can also follow her page. Amakovi's Facebook page is amazing. It's entertainment every day, especially on Fridays. You might want to check it out. See if you can find yourself a partner if you're single. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in today. And we'll see you next week for another one just like this one.